It was WWE Fastlane. And man, oh man, even though there were only about 4 matches, there was some really good, exciting matches on this card, man. And we're going to go ahead and get into it with the WWE Tag Team Championship match between Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, to be specific. Now, coming into this match, this feud, it did seem a bit thrown together, but you did see the plants, the seeds planted a little bit earlier when the Judgment Day tried to recruit Jey Uso, and it looked like they may be able to get both of the Uso brothers into the Judgment Day, but Jey Uso then super kicked all the members of the Judgment Day, and even when it was about to get jumped by Judgment Day, Cody Rhodes came in for the save, and now they were in this tag team match together, the oddest of pairings. And just before we talk about the aftermath of the match and the match itself, how did you just feel about the feud going into it, Noah? Did you feel excited about this match, or, how did you feel in general?
I was kind of excited for it. I mean, it's kind of just been another day in, it's just another chapter in the Judgment Day versus the baby faces, because that's kind of all Raw has been. It's the Judgment Day versus the baby faces that are on Raw right now. Um, I did like what it came into the aftermath, which we'll talk about in a moment, but as of right now, the buildup was all right. It did kind of seem a little thrown together at the last minute, just something where we can put Jay and Cody on the card and the
Yeah.
Judgment Day, because they had no other place on the card as well. But it made people watch, and it was a good match all around.
Yeah, definitely, man. And, although there were elements of it that were thrown together, I think that the ultimate thread that tied this together when it comes to just pairing up Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. One, Cody is the one that decided to bring Jey Uso back ultimately. Jey quit WWE, and then Cody Rhodes, he saw that wrong and felt the need to go get Jey Uso back into the WWE. He brought him on to Raw, and with his time in the bloodline, Jey Uso made a lot of enemies. So it was very important for Cody that he looked out for him and made sure, one, Jey Uso wasn't causing any problems, and two, that he just looked out for the guy, because obviously Cody Rhodes does like Jey Uso. He wouldn't have brought him back if he did not. And also, I mean, the ultimate story of Cody Rhodes winning the WWE Championship is still on the table, and what better way to get at Roman to kind of stick it to him than to team up with his cousin. And that's really what we got here. So into the match, the match itself, it was definitely a solid one. The crowd was piping hot for Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes, man. The crowd, they definitely still go crazy when it comes to Jey Uso. The loss at SummerSlam hasn't hurt him at all. The crowd definitely still loves them some Jey Uso. They still love getting Usi. And, the matchups, of course, it was a solid one. I think one of my favorite spots from it was it was a vertical suplex from the top rope Cody did, but you know how like people just kind of hang there with the vertical suplex? Cody hung in the air for a good 10 seconds with Finn Balor in his arms, and then he hit the suplex. It looked like he landed on his neck. Cody sold it pretty well. And another important spot in the match at some point, I think it was when Jey Uso dived on the outside. I could be mistaken, but Damian Priest ended up injuring his knee, and that came into factor in later on in the night. But Damian Priest ended up injuring his knee, and even though the rest of the Judgment Day members interfered like they usually do, Cody Rhodes was able to fight him off. Jey Uso was able to fight off JD McDonough as well. And one of my favorite parts of the match is when Rhea Ripley tried to come in. And I don't know if you know if how Jey Uso's kind of been like risen up Rhea Ripley as of late, but he was kind of staring at her. He low-key forgot he had a match in the first place. But at the end of it, the Cody Rhodes hit a Cody Cutter with Jey Uso lifting up Finn Balor. Very similar way that Jey Uso used to lift up people for the 1D finisher he did with his brother Jimmy Uso. But they did their kind of created finisher together, the 1D combined with the Cody Cutter, and Cody Rhodes got the 1, 2, 3. And we have new WWE Tag Team Champions and Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. Now, coming into this match, me and you, Noah, we were definitely certain that Judgment Day was gonna win this one. That it was gonna be some shenanigans going on that prevented Cody and Jey from winning. So to have them win this match, what do you think? Does this mean anything much for the grander scheme of Cody's story? Is this just a good little side plot while to keep both of these guys busy? How do you feel about Cody and Jey ultimately pulling off the win?
I feel like this is his way of probably getting back on the SmackDown so that he can start his feud with Roman, because it's going to take a second for this to kind of start going in, especially since, yeah, LA Knight is kind of starting to get into the bloodline business a
Mm-hmm.
little bit
Oh
right
yeah, we'll
now,
definitely
but
talk about that.
right, but I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on that necessarily just yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to, but this is his way of getting in until the LA Knight storyline is finished. Especially since we did receive confirmation that Roman is coming back. Roman is going to be coming back to um
Friday
we
Night SmackDown this Friday.
yeah, tonight Friday the 13th. Um but this should be interesting to kind of see where this goes from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see where this what comes of this title reign. I know that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are the first challengers for said titles, because they are, I mean, they want their rematch. They never got their
Yeah,
true rematch. So
actually, I'm not sure if you watch on Monday Night Raw. They actually did address that. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they came out, congratulated Cody and Jey, but they also said, hey, we feel like those titles should be ours. And ultimately, it did lead to a match on Monday Night Raw, a solid match, but Jey and Cody still ended up getting the win. And I think they're just really putting over both of these guys as like, hey, they may not have planned the team together, but now that they formed this team, these guys are elevating each other. And especially, when you got two guys that, both of these guys were very competitive against Roman Reigns. Both of these guys almost beat Roman Reigns until someone interfered. So when you pair them together, I guess it's kind of like a mega powers type of thing where it's just really hard for anyone to beat them. So I love the point you made about how this is going to tie into how Cody Rhodes, now that he's the undisputed tag team champions, he can go to SmackDown now, and he has reasons to go to SmackDown since he has the SmackDown and the Raw belts. So I think that definitely does add a wrinkle into it, and Cody can go ahead and address Roman whenever he feels the need to. So ultimately, I wasn't 100% with the results, but especially after I saw that press conference Cody and Jey did afterwards, I was definitely on board with it, man. Did you see that press conference? Because, like, those guys, you could tell after their match, they went and did something. I don't know if they smoked something. I don't know if they went out and did some drinking, but they were lit at the press conference. Jey Uso might have gotten over a new catchphrase, yeet. And I expect to hear the crowd chant "yeet" every time Jey Uso is on in the ring. But overall, I really did enjoy the opening match, and even though I wasn't 100% with it at first, I'm more on board with the Jey Uso Cody Rhodes tag team. I'm willing to see where this goes. I hope they stretch it out for a solid amount of time.
no, I agree. This has been a really great thing for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them more active on the card, especially since, yeah, Cody is the top babyface, but he hasn't really been able to fight for anything other than fighting the Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm. And now he actually
So,
fought them for something, and he won their titles.
yep. Although I wouldn't be surprised if soon we had to deal with more of that kind of going forward, considering even after Sammy and KO, now they're going to have to try and deal with Damian Priest and Finn Balor wanting their titles back, or
Hmm.
trying to screw Jay and Cody into getting their titles back.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. And there's also some possibilities of, a team like Imperium challenging them, Alpha Academy as well. So, there's definitely not going to be a shortage of challengers for those belts. But, for the time being, even though it's not an established tag team, I do think they can really put those tag team belts over with a various amount of teams as well. So, solid opening match. The crowd loved seeing Jay and Cody win those titles. But let's go ahead and move on to the second match of the card. LWO against Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Now, the Street Profits, they're still coming out to their old babyface theme song, but there were no red solo cups this time. And of course, leading into this match, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, they lost against the LWO at one point. Bobby Lashley said, "Hey, man, if this is what you guys are going to do, I set you guys up to win and you guys didn't want to take advantage. Maybe you guys should just go back to catering." But after that, the next week, when Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar had that U.S. title match, after the match, the Street Profits came up, beat them both up, and won the trust of Bobby Lashley back. And that's essentially what set up this match. Now, the wrinkle with this match is it was 2-on-3 to start out because the other two members of the LWO were knocked out by Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They beat them up backstage the Friday night before. And so Rey Mysterio said, "I'm going to go make a phone call." And before, it was really just a mystery partner. I thought the mystery partner would show up before the match started, but they wrestled through majority of the match with it just being 2-on-3. And as you can expect, the Street Profits, they gave them a lot, man. Bobby Lashley and the Profits, they held their own against LWO. They definitely controlled the match for majority of it. And, it looked like, hey, look, they're just really setting up these guys to really be dominant here. And I guess that mystery partner isn't going to come through. And then all of a sudden, you get Carlito. And
yep.
Carlito, he saw that John Cena was wrestling. He saw The Rock coming back. He was like, hey, let me join the party. So always glad to see Carlito. He comes through. He's revealed to be the third man. And, he came out in a different theme. But he did get the same kind of pop he did back in Puerto Rico. He made quick work of the Street Profits, ended up hitting the backbreaker to, I'm pretty sure it was Montez Ford, I'm not sure. And the LWO get the 1-2-3. There's a lot of thoughts I have about the results of that match. I want to let you talk about what you think about the LWO winning in that fashion with the returning Carlito against the Street Profits and Lashley. How do you feel about that?
So I feel like this match was to set up Carlito coming back full time, which I do like that, and especially it does protect Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits because they can put up the whole thing of, oh, we didn't prepare for Carlito, we didn't even know he was still around, and they can make the jokes about, oh, he's old. Um, but but they're still protecting their loss, and they can still kind of build up after this. This probably isn't a big hit to their momentum. Like, unless they just stop the entire thing outright, this will not be a big hit to their momentum. Um, I do have a problem with Carlito's new music. It sounds very generic.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know
With
what they were cooking up there. They need to go back to that. I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom, 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 boom. Like, come on now. Like when Carlito came out and I didn't hear that, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little deflated. I hope WWE changes that because that new music, it ain't it.
yep. Because this is the King of Caribbean cool. Like, this is like that was an entire part of his persona, was the stuff with that, was the stuff with the apple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a prime part of his gimmick, and it was what had gotten him over with the crowd the first time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
And without those things, it's not. Sure, he still does the backbreaker. He still does all those Carlito like things, but it's not Carlito anywhere. It's just kind of, I don't know. It was kind of deflating, and I would have been okay with it if the music was better. Music was popping, but the music was extremely generic. Maybe they could ask Bad Bunny to write a song for Carlito.
I'm saying, like, you got him right on the payroll. You might as well ask him to make a song for Carlito.
Ask him to make a song for Carlito. Maybe ask him to add some stuff to the LWO's entrance music. I mean,
Yeah, but yeah, I think hopefully they go back to the old theme music. They need to change that up. But in terms of how I feel about the match, I got to be honest with you. As much as I'm happy about seeing Carlito back, because I really do think he could help out WWE, and he's a solid mid-carder in a company that needs more and more valuable mid-carders. Um, I don't like the placement of him in this particular match. I wish that they didn't do this finish. They didn't return Carlito, just to, in spite of what the Profits and Bobby Lashley are going on. You're trying to build them up, and you're trying to see what these guys can do as a new trio. And I don't think them taking 2 losses in a row to LWO is the way to really get the job done. I'm hoping that they're going to progress this feud and this is still going to go on, because if that's the case, then yeah, you can always have the Profits get their win back, and you can also have some good promo segments with them and Carlito, actually give them some mic time, and like you can actually allow them to get over slowly. But I think with this one, I'm like I say, I usually say I'm never really upset when Rey Mysterio wins. I'm never gonna be really upset seeing Carlito come back. But I think that they could have had this return for another team. But if they're building up this feud, if this isn't going to be the end of it, then I'm willing to sit and wait and see what they do afterwards, just to see if they can do a little bit more with the Profits and Bobby Lashley. But I just didn't like the fact that they took the loss, even though like the optics of this is really good. I like the LWO. I like Rey Mysterio for the most part. Santos Escobar is a solid in-ring guy, and now that they have Carlito, maybe LWO can gain some traction. But I feel like they probably should have had the Profits beat LWO, and then Carlito comes out, returns, and make the save once they start beating them up. And, they start being like, hey, we're going to put everybody in this group out of commission. Something like that would have gotten over a lot more for me personally.
that's fair. I mean, it is something that kind of just isn't great for the Street Profits right now, and they do kind of need to start getting wins. But I think kind of after this week, they might really start getting some traction again, to keep this going. Because again, they did this as a nostalgia pop for the fans to have Carlito come back and win a match, which is okay in my book,
Yep.
because Carlito is a solid guy. It reestablishes him to the newer fans that probably didn't know him, especially the ones that didn't see him come back during the Royal Rumble. So it establishes him and the Street Profits and Lashley have more time to establish themselves. Again,
Fair
they're not
point.
going to give up on this. They're not going to give up on this. I mean, we wanted the Judgment Day to break up for a long time because of how much they were losing, but they're still around, and they're the most interesting thing on Raw right now. So
For sure.
um, I say, kind of give it some time, let it marinate, let it do its thing, and we'll come back in the next couple of weeks to kind of assess the damage.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Definitely was a solid match, though. But moving on to the next match, before we even got to this next match, I mean, there was product placement all over the show, from Pizza Hut having the big box with Xavier Woods and Wade Barrett and Michael Cole talking about it. And then you had LA Knight pulling up in a Slim Jim car. At least they actually did something with the Slim Jim Battle Royal to make it make sense. Hey, LA Knight got a car out of it, and he got a pretty cool entrance. But after all the product placement, we then move on to the triple threat match between Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka. Leading up to this one, man, me and you were both on the train that, hey, Asuka, it'd be cool if you won another title. Io Sky, it'd be cool if they gave you more time, but you know what time it is. It's time for Charlotte to win that number 15 and pad her stats a little bit more before dropping her title in a month, right? That's what we thought going into this one. And the match itself, it look, I kind of get the vibe that there were parts, and then triple threat matches aren't always 100% for me. And it just kind of felt like a lot of your turn, my turn stuff in the beginning of it. I feel like it did somewhat pick up toward the end of the match. But the fans were just not really into Charlotte. Instead, they really backed up Io Sky a lot like they did for Backlash. And, for the end of the match, Bayley ended up running down, and it seemed like, she may have been trying to cost Io Sky the match, but instead Bayley helped Io Sky retain once again. And, they're going to keep on going with damage control. Io Sky ended up getting the W here. I felt like the match itself was okay. Nothing really too memorable about it, but I like the fact that they did give the fans what they wanted, because, more and more fans are getting behind Io Sky. It's not like at a fever pitch like it was, back when Becky Lynch was popping in 2018, or back when, Bianca Belair was main eventing WrestleMania a couple years back, but they are slowly getting behind them, and they're getting more behind Damage Control as a team. I would hope that the booking for the women's division as a whole gets better, but as of now, the matches are still okay. The wrestlers are still solid as well, and Io Sky, she's still champion. I wonder how much longevity she does have, or if they're gonna go ahead and turn Bayley against her at some point, because I still feel like there's kind of a way that they're booking Io where it's like she can't really talk for herself, or when she tries to, Bayley is interrupting her or misinterpreting what she says. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that, but just overall, I'm gonna let you give your thoughts. What do you think about Io Sky retaining her title in this triple threat match, and just her future prospects as champion going forward?
I liked the match, especially since something happened that doesn't happen. Charlotte took the pin.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. She took the pin. And you know what? I got to give her credit. She took the pin. That's something I didn't think she would do. I thought it would, of course, be Asuka if Io Sky ended up winning, but got to give her credit for that. You're absolutely right.
Yes, and that means that we can soundly take Charlotte out of the picture maybe for a little while, because I think she should probably do some more mid-card stuff, like, maybe Bianca comes back and they feud for a minute. But that's... And speaking of mid-card, just a little small aside, I would not mind if the women had their own mid-card titles, like the IC title and the US title, because it'll probably give a lot more women in the back something to do.
I got to push back on that a little bit, just because of the state that the women's tag titles have been in for a few years now. Like, I think WWE sometimes has trouble building and booking for their main title when it comes to the women's championship. So adding a mid-card title, I feel like they wouldn't give it the justice it needs. So that's the one reason I disagree with that. I wouldn't be like super opposed to it, because you are right. It would give others something to do. And there's a lot of women in the back that really don't appear on TV too often. I'm not just sure I trust WWE in booking that title based on what they've done with their tag team title in the women's division.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I
That's
get the
fair.
concept, though. The concept, you are right about that.
Yeah, because you get people like, we haven't really seen Zoe Stark since the whole Trish Stratus thing ended.
Yeah.
Candice LeRae's still in the back. Nikki Cross is still in the back. We get all of these people, all those women in that division who don't really have anything to do right now. give them something to do. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why the women's revolution was great for what it was. Let's try and add a bit more to it so that we can kind of keep that going and have these amazing female wrestlers have screen time because not a lot of them do.
Hmm.
I mean, especially once the way kind of gets put back on track, as DIY's back now, but
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
you probably have something a bit more to look forward to. We may talk about this next week, but I saw a report saying that Triple H has gotten control of the book once again. Endeavor, they're listening more and more to Triple H, and even though there may be some instances where they'll side with Vince, I think that they see that morale is up with Triple H in control, and the company and business is up when Triple H is the one making those booking decisions. So I think that you may start slowly seeing more and more mid-card women begin to, do more things. I think one woman in particular is Tegan Knox. They keep on teasing her as a potential challenger for Becky Lynch's NXT championship. And just little things like that, even if they don't have a match every single week, at least show them wanting to compete and wanting to do more in the division. So when they do have a match, we actually care a little bit, you know?
Definitely. And I saw that report. I believe Vince is completely out of creative.
Okay.
Like
So
Triple
so
H
when
has
W so when
full
WWE does
control.
something we don't like, we can't put it on Vince no more.
Nope. Nope, we don't have that out.
But
But I don't foresee that happening.
hmm
If we do dislike something, it'll probably just be kind of something where, all right, I'll have to see where this plays out. Like I think Triple H has kind of earned that trust
hmm
from us that, hey, I may not like where this is right now, but this could lead to something great.
Yeah, definitely, man. And just we're definitely gonna put a pin in that one because that's a topic that I definitely want to speak about in the future. But just as it goes for Io Sky and just her title reign, do you feel any differently about Io Sky's title reign at all? Do you just think that they're going to go ahead and just keep on building up to her and Bailey eventually having that falling out, or are they just going to keep these three together as a stable from the foreseeable future?
I'm starting to kind of really think that they're going to keep these guys as a stable for the near future, especially since this is another stable we thought should have been axed after a while
Yeah.
because they couldn't buy wins. They couldn't even buy a win. So, but now that Io Sky is starting to win, and once Dakota Kai comes back,
Mm-hmm.
we could really start seeing some interesting things come about from this. Like if Dakota Kai comes back, there's a her and Bailey, there's a good challenge for your women's tag team
There
titles
you
that
go.
actually like will lift the titles up, especially considering the curse right now is still at large, and
Mm-hmm.
right now the titles are on Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, who aren't really even a team.
Yeah, it on paper, I like the sound of that. Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, kind of like an odd couple type of thing. Piper just pretty much took the title, and Chelsea Green just went right along with it because she needs some muscle. But right now, they're not really doing too much with them. And, whenever Dakota Kai comes back, I really do agree with you right there, man. Put that on Bailey and put it on Bailey and Dakota. If you have the title still on Io Sky, now you've actually got a women's stable that has all the gold. And I don't think that's been done before since we've had the tag team titles. The closest we came to it was when Bailey had two belts when her and Sasha won the tag team championships. So I think that's a pretty interesting idea. And, it's going to be really cool seeing what they do with Io Sky. I think this win shows that they do trust Io Sky and that they're gonna see it through there. And I like I said, my theory when it comes to when it comes to the Japanese wrestlers didn't really come to fruition when it came to the main event, but at least when it comes to Io Sky, they definitely see a future when it comes to her as champion. But moving on to the next match in the card, man. And this was one that me and you definitely speculated, definitely thought would be the main event. But it turns out it was the preliminary to the main event. And that is the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso versus John Cena and
L.A. Knight. Yeah.
And man, oh man, let me tell you something. This crowd was hot for LA Knight. I'm telling you, look, when the match started, like usually when it's a Cena match, you know, Cena's always going to be the most popular guy there. He's always going to be the hottest guy there. But oh, you know what? Almost forgot. Before the match even started, though, Pat McAfee made a surprise appearance. And you may think that's a bit random, but Fastlane was in Indianapolis. Indianapolis is, of course, Pat McAfee's hometown. So they had him come in there, you know, hype up the crowd a little bit before the match started. And he's the one that introduced John Cena. And then he actually went to the commentary booth and did some commentary with Michael Cole and Corey Graves. And, you know, man, just one thing about the commentary, just whenever Pat McAfee comes back, it just shows the gap between him and a lot of the other commentators they have, man. And I think it may just be the chemistry that Michael Cole has with Pat McAfee, but man, you know, you just miss him. You wish he was still here full time. We should have appreciated pandemic Pat McAfee a little bit more than we did because, I mean, look, it's just a breath of fresh air. And I think Corey Graves has gotten a lot better over the time, but Pat McAfee and Michael Cole, that's still my favorite modern commentary team right now. And I was really glad to see Pat McAfee and to hear him commentate over this match. It was definitely a welcome sight to see. But
yes.
Oh yeah, but you know, moving on to the actual match, as I said before the match started, LA Knight was the one who was getting all the chants. He was the megastar in this match to the crowd. And the way that they booked this match, they booked it exactly like that. Cena was the one that started off in the ring. And, you know, when he was wrestling Jimmy Uso, Cena was able to control him relatively easily. He got his moves in. Jimmy Uso did get a little bit of offense, but nothing too much. But then once Jimmy tagged in Solo Sikoa, Solo controlled it completely. They did a really good job at, you know, still maintaining that Solo Sikoa is that next up. He is the muscle of the bloodline. And, you know, whenever Cena would get a little bit of control, it usually came when he was in the ring with Jimmy Uso. And then whenever Solo was in the ring, he really wasn't getting anything. And for about 90% of the match, LA Knight wasn't even in it. And what I love is that they had Cena pretty much play the underdog here. And anytime Cena's hands got a little bit close to tagging in LA Knight, the fans would go crazy. They would get amped up. And then Solo would come in, knock Cena down, drag him to the other side, bring him back down. They were building up anticipation for LA Knight coming in, and he didn't even have to wrestle at all. So I really like that about the ring psychology and how they had the match here. One commentary note I did remark on, well, I didn't note, is that they talked about how Paul Heyman looked like he was aging a few years because of all the stress that he's been under when it comes to managing the bloodline and Roman not being there. And that kind of made me notice, like, yeah, Paul Heyman has not been dyeing his hair or anything like that. So I think it's just to mostly keep up that appearance that, hey, the bloodline's kind of falling apart. And Paul Heyman, he's kind of falling at the seams. He's not really the same Paul Heyman we're used to seeing. But, you know, the match overall, very good. Cena has gotten really good at this. He knows what he's doing. And, you know, once LA Knight came in, the crowd went nuts. You know, he started to do his, stomps in the corner. The crowd was chanting, yeah, at every stomp. You know, at some point, He was punching both Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso at the same time. It was a little bit OP, but the crowd was 100% with it. They were just going with it, saying yeah the whole time. And then eventually at the end of the match, LA Knight was able to hit that BFT and get the W. And after the match, John Cena tried to raise LA Knight's hand to give him the acknowledgement of the crowd. But LA Knight threw his hand down, and then he was like, bump that, and then he raised Cena's hand. And it looked like it was very unplanned, but it was a very good moment. Not only did it give Cena a moment to be acknowledged by the fans, but it also showed like, hey, LA Knight, that's a good dude right there. He doesn't, when he gets the acknowledgement, he's like, nah, man, I'm going to give that to you. Not only did Cena give him the rub, but in a way, LA Knight, he elevated himself with Cena. That's kind of my note for the match. Usually when it comes to these scenarios, John Cena would have absolutely been the one giving LA Knight the rub, but LA Knight, he just didn't really need it. He tag teamed with Cena, and he was on his level in the eyes of the crowd. And overall, it was a good match. The bloodline doesn't hurt at all from this loss, because the main thing everyone thinks about now, it's not that, Solo and Jimmy look a lot weaker. It's how is Roman going to respond to this loss? So how do you feel about the match overall? What are your thoughts about it and the aftermath of what could possibly happen afterwards?
First, I want to put out the shout out again to Pat McAfee. That commentator team between him and Michael Cole was the closest thing we had to prime JR and prime King.
Absolutely.
Because they work well off of each other. They love working with each other. It sounds like they're just having fun the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but back to the match itself. I was really excited for how this went down. They made John Cena look like John Cena again, which is a problem that I'd had since the match with Austin Theory. John Cena did not look like himself during that match.
He looked like he was like playing John Cena, right?
Right. It looked like he was playing John Cena. It looked like he was rusty. It looked like he was tired. It looked like he was getting tired really fast. But now, like, he's kind of gotten a lot of the rust off. He's doing this more and more. Like, he's almost back full time. He's looking really great. He's looking like he did almost back during the U.S. title days. And again, LA Knight gets that rub. So the older fans kind of know this. So
yeah, like LA Knight, he was able to get that rub, and he pretty much, like, every time they've given him the ball, every time they've given him the chance to rise up to the occasion, he's pretty much always done it. I mean, heck, you could even go back to the Bray Wyatt feud at the time when a lot of people didn't really like how that feud and that pitch black match went. LA Knight was the standout of that, and dating all the way back from that until now, I mean, you can tell why this guy was very much one of the dudes that, WWE thought was very highly coveted. And, it took WWE a while to really get on the LA Knight train, but once they did, he has definitely risen up to the occasion. The call dropped with Noah, so I'm going to see if I can get him back on. But going to talk a little bit more just about the aftermath of this match and just what will happen, because like we said earlier, Roman Reigns is going to make his return to SmackDown a little bit earlier. As you hear, I'm calling Noah back just to see if we can get him back on. But Roman Reigns is making his return.
404.
All right, well, Noah, I'm going to go ahead and let Noah know to give me a call back whenever he can. But as I said earlier, Roman Reigns is going to be making his return back to SmackDown. And boy, there is a lot for him to talk about. There is a lot of stuff. Jey Uso going to Raw teaming up with Cody Rhodes, the Judgment Day coming to Raw, and that must be Noah right there. Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry
Uh,
about that. Something cut out here over on my end. But
Nah, no
as
problem,
I
man.
was,
What I was talking about now is just like how do you think the aftermath is gonna be for the Bloodline after losing this match?
Roman is going to be pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Roman is going to not let them hear the end of it, and I think that he might even start going after Paul really hard
Mm.
because he's like, I leave for a month, and this is what you're doing. I leave for a month, and you're letting my name cr- look weak in front of all these people. Jimmy, who I excommunicated, is back, even though I specifically said that he was never coming back, that I would never forgive him.
Acting like he's
What?
running things.
And he acts like he's running the place. Why is he even here?
And
It's going to be one of those things where I think the first thing that happens as soon as the bloodline comes out r- with Roman's going to come out with all of them. He's going to throw Jimmy on the spot, and it's going to be a spear.
mm,
Roman will probably spear Jimmy and have Solo Sokoa spike him.
spear spike.
Yeah, I think it'll be a spear spike, not to just to kind of remind Jimmy of where his place is.
Yeah, you know
In
what?
this.
I think there's a good chance of that happening. Um, I think it would be a little interesting though if Roman came back and he wanted to act as if things weren't falling apart, as if, hey, I'm still the champion, I'm still the head of the table. You know, everything's fine. Like it's like the dog meme with all the fire burning around him. It's all good, guys. We're all fine. But I think there's a better chance of him just going ahead and like going off on everybody, including Paul Heyman, especially just how everything has turned out since that SummerSlam match. But overall, man, this was LA Knight's moment to shine once again. He knocked it out the park. And, I'm just wondering what is next for LA Knight. Are we going to see LA Knight make an appearance up against at Roman Reigns this Friday night? That is something that would be really good to see. But, we can talk about that a lot later. Definitely going to talk about Roman's return next week on the BN'N Podcast. But for our main event of Fastlane, we have the world heavyweight champion Seth Rollins going up against Shinsuke Nakamura in a last man standing match. And this feud was very solid going into it to me. I felt like Shinsuke Nakamura in particular, I felt like he was definitely doing some of the best work of his career. Well, not his career, but some of the best work he's done with WWE up to this point going into the match. So I was definitely a lot more excited going into this match than I was going into the previous Rollins versus Shinsuke match. And I can't, usually when it comes to Seth Rollins matches, I say this all the time. It was a Seth Rollins match. But I can't even say that with this one. This one, honestly, was solid. These guys threw everything they could at each other. I feel like Shinsuke definitely like he said, he was going to go after that back. He was going to try to make sure he ended Seth Rollins' career. One of the most gnarly spots is when Seth got slammed on the concrete floor. And, they wrestled outside in the audience, and they were just doing a whole lot of stuff to each other. I think they had a ladder spot, and, Seth went through a table at one point as well. So, it was a lot of things going on right there. However, Seth Rollins, despite every time it looked like Seth was going to be able to, wasn't going to be able to get up, every time it looked like Shinsuke Nakamura had him, on the ground for the 10 count, Seth Rollins kept getting back up. I mean, Shinsuke even brought out nunchucks. He brought out nunchucks. First time I've seen nunchucks used in a WWE ring, and he hit him in the back with it. But At the end of the day, Seth Rollins ended up getting the 1-2-3. He hit the Falcon Arrow through a table on Shinsuke Nakamura in the crowd. Pretty gnarly spot. A good way to end the match. However, there is a little bit of criticism I have to levy here. And I heard Bubba Ray Dudley or Bully Ray Dudley say this as well. Seth Rollins, it was looking like some Super Cena-esque type stuff. I mean, Shinsuke put him through a lot, and every single time Seth Rollins was able to get right back up, and then he comes back on Monday Night Raw, and he says, like, hey, man, you know, my back's not doing good. And he was getting honest with the fans, talking like he was thinking about retirement, and then he was like, but I'm not going anywhere. And then he kind of no-sold it a little bit. So yeah, honestly, I can't say the match was bad, but when Seth Rollins won, I can't say I was like super hyped up. I would have been really stunned if Shinsuke ended up getting the win, but Seth Rollins ended up being the one to get the win. And it was just kind of, for me, it was like, okay, I guess. And if you're wondering the reason why Damian Priest did not cash in his Money in the Bank, if you remember earlier, I mentioned that leg injury he suffered in the tag team match. They had a segment backstage where Rhea Ripley was pretty much telling him, hey, man, your leg's not in condition to compete right now. If you cash this in, it's not 100% guaranteed that you're going to win it. Stay back and rest up. Showing that, once again, Rhea Ripley is the leader of that team. But as it goes with this match, just how do you feel about Seth Rollins getting the win against Shinsuke Nakamura? After everything they've done to build up this match, Shinsuke in particular, and build up the bad back.
I think I got to agree with you. It was a really good match. They put each other through an absolute war, and that was honestly extremely fun to watch. For that being what it was. And on the side of, well, the finish, yeah, I do kind of agree. It was kind of Super Cena-esque. It does no-sell it a little bit, which is not great. I mean, I'm with Triple H. I'm gonna see where this goes. But it's not you're right. It's not the best thing going. It wasn't my favorite way to end, this match, especially since, yeah, Damian Priest didn't cash in. Shinsuke didn't get the win over him. But again, I'm just going to let this one pass and let it keep moving forward, and we'll see where this comes out on the other side.
Yeah, and you know, I would love to be there with you when it comes to letting it ride out, letting it keep going. But for me, I think, you know, Seth Rollins ain't really my cup of tea. And the next Monday night out on Raw, they decided to have Drew McIntyre come up and step up to be the next challenger in the next pay-per-view at Crown Jewel for the World Heavyweight Championship. And man, it's like they're trying to force me to not want to see this title match, because my goodness, look, if there are two guys that a lot of people like that just are not my cup of tea, it's Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. I'm sure there are people that are going to love this match, that are very excited about this match. Heck, the last man standing match, that last spot when Seth Rollins won, the crowd was hyped. They're still loving Seth Rollins. Everyone's still singing his song. And, you know, I've just kind of accepted I'm the odd person out here. I'm not really a Seth Rollins kind of guy. But I'm going to keep giving him a chance, I guess. But I kind of know going into it, I'm not really going to be 100% feeling it. I guess in terms of just the match by itself, like we both said, the last man standing match, very solid match, but this World Heavyweight Championship still feels second rate. And when Roman comes back on Friday night, we're going to feel the effects of that. We're going to see just how second rate the title is because no other champion in WWE gets that response that Roman is going to get this Friday night on SmackDown. And I don't think Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre are going to be the two guys to do it. But Shinsuke, I feel like if he would have won, at least it would have been something outside the box. Would have been something interesting. Would have been something new, and then it would have gave me at least a little bit more of a reason to care about that World Heavyweight Championship. But Seth Rollins winning just makes me feel like, okay, we're still playing the same hits. We're still playing it safe. We're still keeping the belt on Seth Rollins. And, I guess in a business sense, it's smart. They probably have bigger plans for that title other than Shinsuke Nakamura. But any chances of Shinsuke being relevant in the main event scene, just go ahead and throw those out, man. I don't know if we're gonna get back to that one. That was pretty much the best chance he had. Maybe they prove us wrong, but yeah, that's really what I felt like. I was like, well, Shinsuke, back down the ladder you go. Here's Ricochet. Have fun with that feud.
Yeah, which is it kind of sucks for him. He does deserve a little better after all the loyalty he's kind of shown to WWE and the fact that people are still reacting to Shinsuke after all this time, even after everything that Vince put him through. Maybe he should go back down to NXT where he'll be a bit more relevant again, or maybe they pick this up again in some other time. I don't
Or
know.
maybe they just feel like that's all he really should be is a mid-carder, and they just really elevated him to the main event status, just the main event to B-level pay-per-views. And I think that's just really more of the reality for it. I don't think they're really looking to like rebuild him or repackage him. And I guess, he's in his 40s now. He's not really a guy that's a spring chicken anymore, but I just kind of wish they would have did something a little bit more just out of the ordinary, out of the blue, just something out of the norm, just so we can like see what Shinsuke can do as a world champion. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe they just feel like it wouldn't be too much of a difference between him and Seth. So we might as well just keep it on Seth for right now.
Yeah, and I mean that's fair. And
Yeah.
if he ends up leaving WWE, which I wouldn't, I I could foresee that happening. He'll probably just either go back to New Japan or maybe Tony will give him a contract because that means he can just start doing stuff with his boys, Kenny Omega and the Elite and all the other New Japan guys that they got coming in. Like, I mean, heck,
I don't know about that one because look, these New Japan folks, when they come to WWE, they get comfortable. Like AJ Styles, he comfortable. Asuka, every time there's a little rumor about her leaving, she makes sure she goes on Twitter and tells them, nope, that is not true. That's not going down. I love WWE. So I don't think he's going to really be leaving anytime soon. I think that fans really want him to leave because they really want him to be that main event guy. They really want him to go to a promotion where he's treated as such. I just think Shinsuke has gotten his wrestling in, and seeing about how that feud really played out between him and Seth, it just kind of made me feel like they were just like, "Hey, Shinsuke, you want to main event a couple pay-per-views?" And he was just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Or he just told him like, "Yeah, we can do that, but you got to go along with exactly how I want it to be done." And then they were just like, "Okay, but you're going to lose both of these matches." And he was just like, okay, fair enough, but at least I get to, just do a few things that I've been wanting to do for a while too. But overall, look, the match itself was a good match. And the pay-per-view, very quick pay-per-view, 5 matches in total.
Yep.
2.5 hours. Like, that thing breezed on by, and part of me feels like it could have been a little bit longer. Maybe you could have squeezed in another match or so, but I'm not gonna complain too much about 5 matches. The 5 matches we all got were decent enough. There really weren't any clunkers at all. I feel like, in particular, the 2 tag team matches definitely delivered. And those are 2 of the matches that are going to have the 2 biggest implications on the company going forward. And overall, Fastlane from Indianapolis was a very solid show, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that was a great, very strong, lean pay-per-view. I mean, you didn't, like I said, like there was no clunkers, there was nothing that really slowed everything down. All the matches were at least solid or great.
Hmm.
I mean, this is probably one of the best fast lanes we've ever had.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Fastlane has always been just a skippable pay-per-view. Maybe outside of like one or two matches, they may build up like one main event match that's like really good above everything else. But this is like the most well-structured Fastlane we've seen. I think, Triple H isn't hitting at 1,000 with these pay-per-views anymore like he was when he first took over, but I still think that WWE is doing a solid job when it comes to the pay-per-views, especially the B-level ones that, people don't really have any reason to care about. He's giving folks a reason to tune in, reasons to pay attention to it, which is going to lead into the big shows like the big show they have coming up, Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia. And we will definitely
Yes.
get more into Crown Jewel as the weeks lead up. But man, Noah, I appreciate you for joining me once again on the BNN podcast, man.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here. And I know some guys probably want to talk about the Tuesday Night War.
Oh,
We'll
don't
get to
worry, we
that.
got you.
Yeah, we'll get to that next week. We're definitely
Yeah.
going to get to that next week and talk
Oh,
about
because Tony
everything that's
Tony's been
happened.
having them Twitter fingers, man. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, he really went off on a tirade recently. I'm about to get more into it in my own time, but
Hmm.
yeah, no, great time to come back again. It was a great time to get to review Fastlane, and we'll get to the fallout of everything that's happened from Fastlane as well as the Tuesday Night War next week.
Yes, sir. Well, Noah, thank you once again for joining me. Thank you for all the listeners who listen to the BNN podcast. If you would like to hear more BNN podcast content, make sure you go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. BNN podcast is there. Of course, if you're listening on ATL Talks Radio, you can go to www.atltalks.com to access more content from ATL Talks Radio. You can also listen to us on Alexa. You can listen to us on Apple CarPlay. You can also get the ATL Talks Radio app on Apple, in the Apple Store and in the Google Play Store, as well as the Cluster TV app on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store as well. So we will be back next week with another edition of the BNN podcast. Thank you all for listening. Peace.